goodness. What number is this? Number 8?
What do you mean 8?
Episode 8.
Oh, we're counting our episodes. That's right.
Yes.
So we do 8 high 8s.
Yeah, I don't think I liked this so much.
Get her on the mic.
Okay, so on speed. Did I feel out of practice?
Yeah.
And slightly.
You've already seen me out of practice.
Oh.
Just kidding. I'm kidding, Jen. You're doing wonderful.
Oh, and there's a rock.
Yeah, I've tried to up my.
I'm gonna say you're also out of practice.
I've been talking to a disc jockey, so I've been getting mentorship on the side.
Do you have different voices you're gonna pull out tonight?
Yeah, I've got my my infomercial voice because he does endorsements. So Sunday, and I'm still working on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you should work a little harder.
I will. I'll do that. Hey, you know what? You should know.
What?
I've been looking up our analytics on the podcast.
And
We are the #1 podcast in our genre.
what is the genre?
It's called the C-List. In the C-List category, a podcast named C-List.
We are the only one.
We are the only one, and we are #1.
Oh, hey, I guess it pays to be number 1.
No, it's not paying yet.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And did it showcase how many viewers you've had?
We are in the multi-billions viewers. No one's can they see me
I was
wink?
gonna say, yeah, no, I can see the PI wink.
How's your world?
Good. I'm really excited about today. I feel like we're pivoting just slightly, but maybe not so much. And I'm hoping to bring a little bit of inspiration to our listeners.
What's our pivot?
Our pivot is, well, typically we've been talking to people who have started their own company and they've built it and they've all had these incredible founders' journeys that we've listened to. I know you're going to eye roll that because you hate that. Yeah, just gonna. Well, anyway, today we're talking to Nick Tzanev, and he hasn't created his own organization, he claims, and we'll dig into this. He claims.
Is he under good integrity here? Yeah. He does claim, doesn't he?
He claims
I hope he
he is an intrapreneur, not an intra. I'm really
because intra is out, intra is in.
Yeah, correct. So my hope,
I thought you were gonna say he's an introvert, and I thought, oh, we are totally pivoting.
maybe,
We'll find out.
could be both.
Are you an introvert?
I am an extroverted introvert. So I think we can go ahead and get started. Oh, wait. But what are you excited about?
Yeah, I am excited to hear about this idea of entrepreneurship. I feel like that's not an uncommon feeling in your organizations I've worked for in the past. This idea of like, yeah, go do something creative. But what I do think is always lacking in the organizations is the ability or desire to actually give space. So I think there's a lot of lip service to that sort of affect. And yeah, be that person. We want all of our people to be the go-getters. The
change agent.
Yeah. But also, here's your 50 hours of work that you need to do.
Your regular day job.
Yeah.
And here, you see this? This is all the red tape.
Yeah, exactly right. So I'd be curious to hear how he's navigated that.
But yeah, me too. So I'm hoping I get to learn something. You get to learn something.
I pretty much know everything.
I know you don't think that.
I know. All right, well, let's talk to Nick. Wait, what's Nick's title?
Nick is the VP of Information Technology.
IT.
At
At
Able.
Oh, okay. Oh, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, I've been here the whole time.
It's amazing. Yes, it has been amazing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
What a great time. I look forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you started you're with US Able Life. Did I say that correctly?
Correct. US Able Life is a life insurance company. It's life, disability, and home insurance. And I've been there for 25 years. This was an internship that I never left. So a quarter of a century of experience in this.
Clearly your hay has increased over time.
The pay has It has yes. I can't complain. Yeah. So this was the first real gig for me. That's great. At the age of 20, my first boss said to buy me beer. I remember that vividly, and that's how I could sort of time it.
How old were you?
I was 20.
Ooh, so broke the law.
We broke the law, we didn't yet.
How many beers did you drink with your boss?
I can't confirm or deny it. No,
Backpedaling now. So is that the reason You stayed so
Still here. Yes, I had a great introduction to the company. I was welcomed in. Yeah, so 20-year-old, that was very important. That was a job at a small company that was owned eventually by the employer app today. It was a subsidiary in Batesville, Arkansas, a little bitty town in Northeast Arkansas. And it did insurance processing for flexible spending accounts and, check it out, fiber optic services to school districts and website design and hosting and a small dial-up.
You just brought me back to the 1990s.
Definitely. Do they still do those things? Do they still have dial-up internet?
No, eventually they focused on insurance operations. Yeah, interesting business that survived, but it was an interesting time in to work in IT. I remember doing releases in the server room where we had actual servers and an actual server room.
Yeah.
And there may or may not have been beer involved in the actual release process too. Those are the days, and it's very neat to see where tech is today and how people think about business and innovation and be entrepreneurial. And getting to contrast that with the things that happened 25 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, and it's
Especially tech, yeah.
now. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but Arkansas, from your accent, doesn't sound like you were born and raised there.
Yeah, Southern accent, can confirm. But unacquired one, the original was Eastern European. I grew up in Bulgaria, was born in the early 80s in a country that was at the time a communist or socialist country. Going through an interesting change in the late 80s, early 90s. I eventually made my way to the States at 17 by myself, and I got lucky to end up in Arkansas.
How did you end up in the States? Well, did you come for school?
I did come for school. I had plans to,
Specifically for college or?
well, for high school for a year and then for college. So
So did you stay with the family when you came?
I did. That was an exchange student program. It was very interesting. I had plans to go to Germany because Bulgaria was a very strange place in the 90s. The old regime was off. We would call our teachers comrade one year. Then after the summer, they said, I'm Mr. and Mrs. now. It wasn't going to be comrade anymore. And at a very early age, maybe 12, 14, I decided I'm probably going to leave here. And my goal is to go to Germany, go to university, somewhere closer in Europe. And one day, my mom, I grew up with mostly my mom, she stopped by and she said, Nikki, how would you like to go to the States instead? I said, sounds great. I've been working with computers since I was 7 or 8, and I had to learn English for that reason. And she said, you have 2 days to decide. And if you want to do this, then I'm going to spend basically all my money I'll send you there. And we're going to work on you getting your 2 years of high school done in 1 year. So when you go there, you take some tests, and if you do well, maybe you go to college. And so that's what we chose to do. And I had to do 2 years of high school in 1 year, go to Arkansas, ended up in a really random place, and eventually got a scholarship to a local school where I got to a school. That's amazing.
That's so awesome.
That's the start of the American dream. Yeah.
Yeah. And 25 years later, would you say, have you been living true to the American dream?
I have. It has really worked for me. I'm a proud American. I'm very lucky and fortunate to be sitting right here with these great people in front of me.
Number one podcasters. Number one. Yeah, this is ironic. So when you were with, I think we read that you launched the first website for your company.
Yeah, I did. And I was probably over a weekend. The company needed a Cold Fusion developer, and I applied for a designer job. Yeah, I was building websites for working in Photoshop. I really like doing that. So they said, we need a Cold Fusion developer. Can you do that? And I said, sure, I can. And over the weekend, I became the best Cold Fusion developer that Batesville, Arkansas had. So on Monday, I basically started the job, and very quickly we launched this full self-service website for the insurance company that people couldn't touch for a long time.
How?
Being an entrepreneur, just thinking outside the box and being thrifty, working with what you have. Yeah.
And was it just you?
It was just me, literally me.
Wow.
Well,
Did you sleep?
not a lot, but I really liked what I was doing at the time, and I still do. Yeah. I find that when people meet their passion, whether it's creating companies or other things, or working inside of an organization or for the church, tribe, family, whatever it is, you can find that discretionary energy. And when you align that with what you actually have to do, wonderful things can happen.
Completely unstoppable.
Just gotta drive. Yeah, just gotta drive. So I think that immigration experience and sort of we skipped the whole 4 years of college, that having to work 4 jobs and that being your lifeline and having to do well academically, you go through a process like that. Things are a little maybe simpler later on.
Yeah.
But you still know how to work really hard. Yeah.
Did you have something? Heard the inhale.
No, you really.
He's about to go.
Well, I was gonna go ahead and double down on this idea of intrapreneurialism.
Same.
Okay, go.
What question were you gonna ask?
Well, I was gonna ask because you mentioned like when your passion hits your sort of work requirements, that's where great things can happen. And I guess I want to ask. I want to ask about your team and how you instill that within the team that you manage. But before we do that, I kind of want to talk to you about. You didn't know you were intrapreneurial when you're just building a website. So where is this concept of just be the person that's setting the trail, being a trailblazer within the organization? Where did that come from? Is it because you took the step from Bulgaria, came here, you had to sort of make your own path versus a lot of people where the path is sort of laid out for them and that they, at the end of the path, they don't know what to do?
I blame it on attention disorders and hyperactivity disorders. Yeah, so is that the secret? That's the thing I'm missing. I'm missing. Okay.
I embrace my ADD.
5 to 80 years and give him something really hard and impossible to go and get out of the way. Okay.
Is that how you hire too?
I don't know. Yes. I think that's some element of it. You got to find people who are, hungry and they want to create new things. And, you can imagine I work in insurance. It's not, it traditionally isn't high tech. Well, it's not viewed as high tech, although it can be.
Yeah.
So if you're in an environment like this, where you have a stable business model, but an organization that wants to be a little entrepreneurial as well, has that spirit of creating valuable things in maybe new ways sometimes, because you still have to do it responsibly. You have a lot of security or privacy considerations. You have a core business to run. You can just become a tech company and forget who you are and who we serve and so on. You're insured to the communities and so on. So there are limits. I think that's the big difference between being intrapreneur and entrepreneurial is the amount of sort of space you have to create. Sometimes it's more limited, but also you have an opportunity to fail multiple times and still be successful overall without, it's the risk reward is a little better balance.
Yeah.
Inside of an organization. Yeah.
When did you embrace this term? When did it become this is a thing? There's entrepreneurship has a definition to it, and that's me. When did that happen for you?
I think I've been doing it for a while, and somewhere in my 30s, I decided, I'm just gonna accept, because that's what I'm just gonna keep on doing, because I've done it successfully and unsuccessfully multiple times, and overall, it's created value. It's created it's created important things from our award-winning software, for example, in our organization that we were told at one time we should be building anyways. So,
let's stop there. Okay, let's talk about this. So you have award-winning software. Who told you don't build this?
Every organization has, a certain size, right? Develops different influences, and people in politics get more complex, right? So because I've been there for so long, just like anybody else, we would have had different leadership regimes and different sort of strategies and leadership checks.
Sounds so menacing. I like it. Are you part of the regime now?
I definitely am.
Yeah.
So over the years, we've had to do transitions in strategy and what the definition of value, and those transitions sometimes create space for being an entrepreneur. So I've gotten to live through at least 4 leadership changes in a company. So
Wow.
yeah, 4 CEOs at Tech now.
Well, how did you manage? So when people are telling you not to do a thing, that you believe it, and presumably you're not at a leadership regime at that moment, or are you? How do you navigate that? How do you get the permission, if you need it, to keep going?
Well,
If we're using the software as sort of like the guinea pig here.
I think that software it's a little easier, because I think a successful entrepreneur can, just like an entrepreneur, they do a lot of things themselves as well. So at some stage, you're balancing what you do at home and maybe in other concerns in your life besides just career and work with what energy goes into your work. So if you're willing to do some personal sacrifices, spend weekends or evenings building something that doesn't take away from your job with software, that's actually pretty easy to do as long as you have the drive and the opportunity to do it. Not everybody has. Life is different for me now. I have kids and I have other concerns in my life that I have to balance. But at the time, I could. So it's, a lot of long weekends, building things that no one asked for, just to show them so that once people have their hands and eyes on, they can imagine the value these things could create.
I said, yeah, and pitch. So you give people something tangible. So
You do, yeah. That's I think that's how you sell things. Where you're like, yeah.
So it's easy to reject an idea. It's harder to reject something that's
It actually brought to life. Yeah.
It's easy to appreciate something tangible. I always say you can't really make a good decision unless you have had your hands on what it is that you're assessing. How do you make a well-grounded assessment of something you've never tried to do before?
But in the spirit of intrapreneurship, wouldn't that be part of your main mission? Trying to, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm getting the definition or I'm misunderstanding the definition, but it feels like you're not always going to have the time and the space to build the thing, to get the proof, to convince. So as an entrepreneur, don't you have to get creative, think outside the box to influence the decision makers before you've actually been able to put together the concept, the tangible concept?
100%. You have to create some value before you have to open a door. You have to create an opportunity for you to present your innovation. And then later on, when you maybe don't have as much opportunity or skills or not, maybe your main job becomes a leadership job, requires connecting with people, interacting with them less so than making things, right? So at some point it becomes creating space for people, finding people's interests and aligning them with things they have to do and things that might be valuable that they could try.
Yeah. I'm dying to know because we need to create more space in what we do. And I say this because I know if left alone, Arash can be very innovative. Oh, so I know. I'm going to have to walk this back at a certain point or he'll never be able to walk out the door. But I want to be able to give our folks the space to create. I think it's really important, but you have to balance it with the day job. So what is the advice that you give to folks like us, the ADHD adults who love to create things, who love to solve problems, that then get so bogged down with the typical 8 to 5 and they don't want to disappoint and drop balls, in their regular day job? How do you create the space? And for people who have families like Arash, they don't have the nights and the weekends to give all the time. So how do we create space at work?
At work. So as someone who sits in a leadership position now, I see that as part of my responsibility to create some space for research and development work. So it could be something like we only accept 80% allocation for people's project assignments or production support assignments because that leaves 20% slack time.
Yeah.
And slack time is to create, innovate, learn, and also just be prepared to absorb unplanned work. Yeah. So that's valuable not just for space to make new things that may fail or may not create any value, but it's also continuing your business needs as the unplanned work arrives. So it's learning the discipline to create that space and showing it's being a leader who's gone through that individual contributor, innovator, late nights and weekends, hard work on many things to get thrown out eventually or maybe not liked. I tell you, one of my biggest disappointments was changing topics a bit. I found, and I was in management at that point, maybe the supervisors or a manager, we'd found a feature that would make a huge difference, so we thought, in a certain department for a certain process. And we had a direct path automating that. I don't have the number, but it was a significant amount of work for maybe a dozen people. And we built it, deployed it, we presented it to the leader who was over that area, and they said, this guy's nothing to me. And we threw it out. Eventually they got acknowledgement and it was actually useful, but it took a while. So you have to I mean, as an entrepreneur, you'd face disappointment or rejection of your idea. Perseverance, yeah. But at that time too, I had taken some extra risk as a leader because I actually tasked people with making something that ultimately failed. Well, it's very interesting.
But it didn't go because it still came back around to be useful.
But had to be remade because it was years later.
Yeah. Do you think that initial projection was real? That's by like evidence, for lack of a better word here, or do you think the rejection was sort of ego coming into play?
Like, it could have been either. But I don't want to judge the people who made decisions. And so I'll judge myself instead for not learning yet how to speak to people's concerns. How do you understand who you're facing, what they might be looking for, how you might approach them early on so that you don't end up spending a lot of time building something that fails. Because it doesn't matter if it's the best product or service or an enhancement. If it's not accepted or adopted or put into play, it has exactly zero value to the business.
Right.
Sure, it may have been a great experience for developers, software developers, analysts, the people who are maybe hoping they don't go into production. But if it's rejected, it never makes prod or it's shelved, its value is zero. So as you go on this journey of being the sort of the young gun creative person, kill yourself over the weekend, make something, and there it is, to learning how to face disappointment and bounce back from it. That experience helps mold you into, hopefully, into a leader who can make better decisions and prepare your peer group for innovation. Yeah, and partner with them on it. Find ways to demonstrate value advance instead of taking a lot of those risks because they cost you personally. Yeah, it's not your money. It's not remortgaging your home. Like, I've heard great people speak on this podcast before. It's different risk, but it's still your most valuable asset, just time.
And reputation, potentially.
And reputation.
Yeah, and maybe that's the big risk of you get fired. Yeah, you get fired. That's fire always on the line. Yeah.
So what do you tell your folks now? Are you constantly playing little Nick back in your head as you're coaching the next team coming through?
The first question I always ask people is, what would you like to do? Like, what are your interests? What would you put in your own job description? And I try to align people's interests with their assignments. That's one of the first things we do together. You find someone who's, there was a book, The Ideal Team Player, hungry, humble, and smart. Ideally, you find people who really want to get into the action, who are not, they're not arrogant, but they're not overly humble either. They're able to...
They're confident.
They find value. Yes, they're perfect. There's confidence. And they're people smart. They know how to interact with others or are interested in developing these skills. And you partner with folks like that. You get something that someone said is impossible, not possible to make. And then you just live.
Oh, it's so fun. So, okay, let's talk through this. In your style of management, you actually bring that entrepreneurial spirit to how you're growing your current team, how you've always grown your direct reports. So some would say, okay, you have a job description, you have these things that you need to fulfill, and then you always have the other skills section. You need to be an excellent speaker, you need to know Microsoft PowerPoint, all of that. So are you kind of throwing the old job description away and really focusing on what you believe to be the core strengths of the human sitting in front of you and the things that interest them the most, and shifting and molding a new job description to fit them?
We have a responsibility to our organization to deliver certain things. So when companies have scorecards or OKRs, different things, depending on who you are and how you plan your business. They usually last a year for a short-term sort of objective and maybe 3 to 5 years for a longer-term plan. So a responsible innovation sort of cycle never discounts of course, that's your primary focus, is you add value as an entrepreneur, an organization that has a core business and all of that. So going back to the people, we have the job descriptions, we have the responsibilities, and then I look at it as having turns or opportunities to be entrepreneurial. And that may not be for everybody as well. Sure. So I always make sure that people who are uncomfortable, the outgoing introverts like you and me, Jen, always make sure they end up having to speak publicly, so they push themselves a little bit, and they always make sure that they have an opportunity to push a brand new idea as well. Let's not make something happen. It's brand new.
That's a tough balance, but that's awesome. I really appreciate that. I think leadership is sometimes, or the view of leadership is, I have to lead these people to get their job done, that job is just what lives in a job description and what the company is mandating. I don't know. I've seen it throughout my career where it's, let's sit down in our one-on-one and you give me a verbal status report. I don't like that. Well, I need to know, and leaders and managers need to know what's going on, but it's really meant to uncover where is there pain and friction that you can remove as a leader. Then also you're supposed to inspire. And I get it's the employee's time. A one-on-one is an employee's time, but I feel like even, if Arash and I are sitting in our one-on-one, it's not, I don't feel like you necessarily know all of the things that you can talk about. It's what am I supposed to talk about? And I think that's where leadership fails sometimes. So long-winded way of saying, I feel like all leaders are supposed to be inspirational or their direct reports, and not just create the space, but be that performance coach, I think, right?
Balance advisors, or I say balance because we talked about family and careers, true competing priorities. I believe there are 13 human concerns that are universal to people, to humans overall across cultures. This is based on some Fernando Flores readings and some other books to my coaching. And some of those concerns are career and work, which are two independent things. You want to short-term do that much longer, but family, spirituality for some people, it's the friendships and the communities, it is your health. So there are 13 of those. So each person has a unique sort of balance to these race at a different point in their life. Yeah. So my job is to make people powerful.
Yes.
And power is your relative ability to add about value, right? It's whether it's for your business or your family, that there's a right formula.
Yeah.
And there's a certain demand for adding value to a company for you to be employed, right? And you agree that there are performance or, requirements.
Yeah.
You have to fulfill the job description. But my primary responsibility as a leader is to balance what people's power equation looks like, if you will, with what the organization needs to do, and also sprinkle in some sort of risk or of opportunity and bait these conversations for opportunities, for possibilities rather. So that to me is one of the core leadership responsibilities, and I'm lucky to be in a place that allows space for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And also make space for it. It's not just at a certain level, it becomes your responsibility.
Have the autonomy to be able to do it. Yeah. And then you actually follow through and you do it. I don't want to lose sight of something that you just said is, I think, really, really important. I'm going to ask you to restate, in your words, what is the definition of power?
It's power is your relative ability to add value. Valuable contributions to your organization. In this context, is a business. It could be a tribe. It could be a family. If you're a homemaker, it could be something else. That's power. So my job becomes growing people's power, helping them be powerful and celebrating people becoming powerful. That flips how you look at competing a little bit.
Oh, completely. And that's why I need to ask, Arash, what's your definition of power?
That's so interesting. I don't know that I've ever took the time to write down a definition, Jen. Off the cuff, I can tell you what I don't think is powerful. It's fear and intimidation from people. I think it may work, but it's not, doesn't inspire. I don't think it inspires most people to actually care about the person or their vision.
Right. But
yeah.
I want to dig in just a little bit, because when Nick and I had this conversation originally,
you guys have had
a
power conversation? You didn't come?
we didn't call you.
I'm not powerful enough?
It's from introverts only. I'm going introverts only.
But it made me realize is that when I hear the word power, it actually has a negative connotation.
It's so, yeah.
And I think you went down the same path because you wanted to immediately explain what power wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
To me, then I think your first inclination was to go, oh, power, that word feels negative.
That's true. Yes, because I think the dynamic is, do you have power? And usually that comes with this sort of heavy-handed, whether physical or emotional or whatever other adjective that's there. I don't know if the adjective's the right word, but there are people who are powerful that
They're not scary.
they're not scary, and you go, what do you need? Like, I'm going to help you.
Right.
Like, I'll give up everything. What do you need?
Right.
And I think that's
People don't view that. They would classify them as being powerful. But in Nick's definition, which I really, really love and appreciate because it's reframing what people think is power into the more appropriate definition.
well. So, what do you think is power?
Well,
How would you define it, rather?
Well, it depends. Are you talking pre-Nick conversation or pre-introvert conversation?
Yeah, Ian and Ann. Before Nick and after Nick.
Nick and after Nick. Yeah, before Nick, I would have said, again, I had this negative association to the word power because I would think ruling by fear and trying to control. I think people who grasp for a lot of control or grasp for a large empire, but that was my limited view. And now after Nick, I think about it as, oh, there's been so many more people throughout my life who have had a whole lot more power. I just didn't see it as power. They had the ability to influence and unlock your mind so that you didn't feel boxed in. That I think power is getting the best out of people. You can be powerful if you know how to unlock the best in people.
That's great.
Right?
I'm with that. It's funny because I'm still going back to the negative because I'm thinking people who could manipulate with the soft skills of power too, because I think there's that too. There is the pure intimidation aspect, and then there is the sort of, I can get you those 13 things that people need.
They call power skills. Those soft skills, they call power skills. It's interesting.
Interesting. Definition between, you said the word, and I kind of cringe when I hear it, manipulate. And I think there's a big difference between people who are on the positive definition of power. I think they only try to influence, and that's a big difference between
Manipulate. Like there's a thin line there, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what's your definition of
Can we start asking me for definitions? Can I get a dictionary?
in the dictionary?
Where's ChatGPT? ChatGPT, what's my definition?
Well, I just say, okay, we don't have to go through definitions. Fine. But my whole thing, and I've had this conversation before with one of my friends. I think the ability to influence is helping someone make the decision themselves. They come to the decision themselves. I think manipulating is you're puppet mastering. And that's a very big difference.
Yes.
Totally got sidetracked. I have no idea where we were.
We're talking about...
Take it away, Nick. All right.
Where were we? We were speaking about influencing people, and I go back to the 17-year-old kid showing up in rural Arkansas expecting... I spent 3 days in New York, and then I was sent to rural Arkansas, a town of like...
That was a bait and switch.
800 people. Left you bait and switch. Yeah. Ended up being, big aspirations in a really small place, so tough. But I vividly remember people who were very influential to me, including one of my first boss, or this high school counselor who helped me sort of navigate the whole college application process. Teresa is her name. And she became my host mom for a while with the families that were hosting students and her family. So there's a sequence of, and my current boss, Kendall, a lot of influential people, and it's helped me understand, like, no one is self-made, right? Sure, you can, entrepreneurs create a lot of things.
Yeah.
Value. They become wealthy, they can influence big things, they have power, and It can finance big changes. But just the basic human interaction of enabling somebody, understanding how they can be their best and helping them navigate something, whether you're raising a kid or coaching a coworker or helping somebody on an athletic team, it's no one's self-made. It's you have a responsibility to look back and, maybe pay it forward. But that's what my experience has taught me. I think just any adult eventually understands that.
Yeah.
But you can do that in business, and you can start early and find other entrepreneurs and make sure they're in the right places and their interests align with their current power equation, if you will. And about that, I actually have a spreadsheet with the 13 human concerns, and I have them ranked on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the highest. And I define what my goals are for each concern, how important it is for me right now versus where it is. And if to give you an example, so what's for family? Okay. So that's always a 5 for me. Okay. Or maybe it's health and education or 2 other ones.
But then you say family, then you have a goal for your family. There you go.
It's a 5. Like I will not skip any of my kids' activities, for example. So that's what 5 means, besides being a good parent and all of that. So I'll pick a different example because that one's, it's 5. It's a 5. A high 5 all the time, nonstop, 24. It's a 24/7, not a 5.
Right.
But let's take education, for example, and career. Or maybe work. There's work and then there's career. Career is longer term. Education, let's say you've tasked yourself with obtaining a new certification, or you're doing the MBA class, or finishing a degree, whatever it is. Maybe that's a 5, and that's your goal. And you're currently also putting in 5 worth of energy to that. So you're studying all the time. And then you start noticing maybe something's slipping at work, or maybe your family isn't happy with you, or you've realized maybe your body hurts, your lower back's starting to hurt. So then you look at what you think your body should be score-wise and where it is. And if there's a negative difference there, I call that the integrity gap. You've told yourself, I want this to be a 3 or a 4, but it's actually a 1 or a 2, but I haven't changed the score. So is it that important? And why am I lying to myself? Because if I accept that I'm going to consistently fail at something, my own integrity to myself is in question.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a motivator to do a little better, or change your expectations.
How frequently do you go through that process?
At least once a month. Yeah, at least once a month, maybe every couple of weeks when something big happens. I lay out my personal dashboard and I journal what's important to me. Or anytime I have a big conversation at work or something important needs to happen there, I use that to prepare myself for negotiating with the other concerns in my life.
Yeah.
Including my family. Could be lowered a 5 to a 4 for the time being, skip a few things. Wife does a few extra runs. Her name's Leslie. She's awesome.
Now, you're an innovator, so I have to ask. This seems like a pretty analog process. You're journaling, you're looking, you're writing everything down. Have you done anything in this beautiful age of AI to digitize this information and create your own bot, if you will? Do you have a Nick bot where you're going and actually asking your former self, a month ago, Nick, why you shouldn't do something, or?
Oh yeah. Glad you ask. Yeah, AI, obviously, innovation and AI sort of landed themselves neatly in the same space where I'm interested and can create value, right, for the organization I'm in and for the community. We've done, things in time with that. But yeah, I definitely have a Copilot notebook that has all these things and I can talk to. But for my most recent experiment, I'll talk about the Tinglebot.
Yes.
Tinglebot is my coach, my executive coach. His name is Bill Tingle, and I just completed a 12-month program with Bill. And the program involves reading these 30-page papers and writing homework assignments and reflecting deeply on what it means to be an executive, a leader, and how to think about power. That's one distinction that he gave me, by the way. And I missed Bill once we finished. So I replaced him with a synthetic version of Bill. The Tinglebot has all the homework assignments we did together, has samples of those writing on LinkedIn, It has book references of the stuff we read together. So when I miss Bill or I need advice for how to be an executive, I talk to my Tinglebot. So you won't let you call it anymore. I'm talking to him tomorrow. I told him I missed the research.
So can you ask him questions and also put the questions in your bot and see if the answers align?
Oh, that would be fun.
Oh yeah, I send them things that the Tinglebot said. I was like, what would you say? But so I brought that example because I think it shows what the future could be for whether it's entrepreneurs or students or people who become powerful in a different way. Yeah. And I contrast that to my MBA degree. I got an executive MBA at the University of Florida. It was in 2016. And that degree has left me with amazing memories and lessons, dividends they'll pay off for my entire life. I remember what it made me feel like, but I have never cracked the books again. They sit in a large plastic container that I don't dare throw out because, one day, tens of thousands of dollars and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over 20 months nonstop sitting under my desk that I've never used again and I'll probably never interact with. But then there's the Tinglebot that I could talk to every day about anything, or I could just send it an email or show it an email and ask it for an opinion. And that'll take me back to all these things that we learned together. It'll make me interact with my knowledge, right? Yeah. That we've accumulated together, where the MBA degree just literally collected dust. So I think I gave you a really long answer to a question about innovating with learning in AI, and that was one example of journaling. All those reflections, all these things, they become living artifacts. Right. And this new way to interact with them is what I've learned. Knowledge-based agents is where it's at instantly for everybody who has either a Microsoft subscription with Copilot or Google Notebook or one of the other ones. There's no reason, if you're listening, you are listening to the #1 podcast in its category. Late DJ voice. Yeah. Please make a knowledge-based agent right now.
Yeah, it seems like, the book, successful people, the 15 things that successful people do. It feels like a podcast number like this on your list. Yeah, I think at least it has to be in the top 5 is to create your knowledge base. You would have to. It would make you so much more
what are we
efficient and effective.
Create your knowledge base. So
think of it like a time capsule. You are creating different time capsules from different periods of your life. Think about what you learned when you were in college and some of the best advice that you got during those years. You want to preserve that. You want to be able to go back to it. But every memory...
Beware the freshman 15 was mine. Number one, I did not heed the warning.
To live on Carks. Let's some ramen. Angel hair pasta. Asti. But if you have these preserved time capsules of the advice, of your thoughts, your feelings, your learnings, and it was so important to you and it made you part of who you are today, it'd be really great to have that digitized in a knowledge base and you're able to go and interact.
It's beautiful, but it's also very Black Mirror to me, as you're saying it. Right? I mean, can I just download my mind somewhere? Because what I'm hearing both of you saying though is it's reflection and meditation. Yeah. So if you're taking out something, which I think it's a rare quality, I rarely go back and go. I've tried to journal.
You don't like to reflect.
I don't like to reflect. It's too telling. It's too.
So I don't hear where I'm wrong.
But I will say I did try to journal a couple years ago, and I used to do it a lot at college, done before. And I had maybe 3 or 4 pages filled out in this random journal that I got that I wanted to sort of chronicle as my kids were growing up and write down the cute things they were saying and the things that I was thinking through. And I was so happy. Because there's just to go back and go, there are these memories and thoughts and feelings.
Do it.
I said 4 pages worth. So
it really is just at one time.
But what I'm hearing Nick say, and I and you just say, it's more about reflection and thinking through and like going back and like learning.
Well, isn't that how you learn the most?
But in your world, are you thinking that you go back and you go, hey, ChatGPT, I've created this Gen bot that's my digital stamp. Talk to me about myself.
I want to remember the prior mistakes that I made and the lessons I learned from them and the sage advice that I got from all of the supportive people around me and the tips and the tricks, so that when I'm navigating a difficult decision that I might need to make, or I feel maybe stuck and I need a little bit of that kick in the ass or boost of inspiration, I can go into.
To what end, though?
What do you mean to what end?
The kick in the ass, for what purpose? What?
Is stuck, feeling like I need to do something that's innovative, but I don't have any ideas. I feel like the well is dry potentially, but I know that there's this area that has a lot of friction or a lot of pain, and I know that we can solve our own problems at work. I'm talking, not personally. Can't solve any of the problem personally. Solvable. I like to just focus on the work problems. But I feel like you can see the problem, but it's still a little fuzzy. It hasn't come into focus. So you feel like you need that boost.
So you need a way to communicate to yourself.
I need a way to recall things that I've learned, mechanisms and tips and tricks and all the really awesome advice that I've received, or my learnings. I have 2 degrees, not 1, but actually 3 if you count the associate's degree. But there were some really impactful professors that I did have, and folks that I will never crack open again. And I did get rid of mine because if they're going to collect dust. But what I should have done is what, Nick has been doing, journaling the most helpful moments and digitizing it so that you can reference these things. It's making you more efficient in your self-talk.
But I'm just wondering if you should digitize it. Like, is the value going back and just reading what you wrote and letting that have its...
To me, you're not efficient then.
It's so funny. That's
It's an efficiency thing.
That's so interesting, Jen. Because maybe the inefficiency is where the value is. Maybe both.
That's going to be a tough...
Let's hear from Nick. What do you have to say?
I think the technology we have today is a new human superpower for people who have had some life experience and some professional experience, because one thing it can do is qualitative analysis at unprecedented speed and scale. And also, it can return you to all these time capsules that you may have created for yourself. I read a book by Arthur Brooks. It was called From Strength to Strength. And the author there argues that people in their 20s, in their 30s, have a certain kind of intelligence called fluid intelligence. That's the early innovator sort of story where you can do an all-nighter, or you can stay up for several days, crowd for an exam, pull it off. Or maybe you are a famous musician and you created some of your best work, or a composer or other. Or maybe a scientist who came up with the best possible theory in their 20s and never saw success later on because the way their brain works has changed. You have fluid intelligence when you're younger. As you become older, your brain changes into a form of intelligence called crystallized intelligence, where you become great at helping others determine correct versus incorrect action. For example, help kind them. You become a coach, a teacher, you become successful there. You know a lot about everything. And it's like you have a librarian in your mind and a giant library, but the librarian is getting a little slower and slower. Right. So you know where stuff is, but you can't quite figure out. You can't quite do the all-nighter anymore. And it becomes not worth it because you're less effective. You have to wake up in the morning. It's so much harder to wake up. How did you have an army of GPTs or bots or Copilot knowledge agents waiting for there, working in that library? You become unstoppable, right?
So I don't know, guys.
Right.
I mean, I love the idea, and also just feels like one more thing
to abstract from just getting to know yourself on a level.
I don't disagree with that. And I think, Nick, curious of your opinion, is there a way to embrace technology a bit too much then? Everything's always a balance, just like your diet, right? You can have your cheat days, but it can't be a cheat week. Is there such...
Fun fact, did you know that everybody gains their 10 pounds a year? Like on average, people are gaining their years.
And we tend to think it's a slow progress over the course of the year. And really, it's just during the holidays.
I was going to say it's November and December.
That's when you gain all the extra weight and you carry it over into the next year. And then you gain your next 5 to 10 pounds in November and December. And that's where everyone gains their weight. Anyway, we were talking about diet or Waffle House. What was the road?
Don't bring up Waffle House. I can't. I'm not going to give in to that craving. Do you believe, it sounds like Arash, you're of the mindset, there is such a thing as too much technology helping you?
So
That what I'm boiling it down to?
If I was to be open and say, what is it that I needed as a person? It is to just sit down with myself with no screens. It is sort of like a manual, like reading the journal that I got to read a couple days ago and go, just taking the time to be with myself.
Yes.
To connect. And so I don't.
That shouldn't stop.
That shouldn't stop. But I can also see myself going after this call, after this. What are we doing here? Podcast. Yeah. Number one podcast, what's category? I love that. And going, you know what? I'm going to create a chat GPT. That's.
You so are.
I mean, I am.
Surprised you hadn't thought of that.
I mean, yes. And well, I've thought, I have, like, should I go get all my notes from college and all my papers that were badly written and just put all of that
bad
and put that up there? But I also just think it's an abstraction from what I think we all truly need, if I can just speak for everyone, which is just stop. Take 10 minutes to STFU and just sit and not try to find another tool to solve a problem. But both end.
Nick.
So that's a technique that would work for, I think, for many. And it's an important one. Some people, so I go back to my 13 human concerns equation, and after speaking with you, I've probably actually made a blank copy of mine for after this podcast. Okay. So I'll probably take a good look at that and decide if I want to add more value to my spiritual concern or maybe the body one. And to me, meditating or taking time to physically write out, and which I also do, by the way, physically journal or scribble or do something that gives you that recenters you.
Yeah.
And in some way that works for you. I think that's a very valid way of doing a reset or reconnecting with rebalancing your thoughts and your needs. And so, yeah, absolutely. That's different for everybody. Some people crank up, a 50-mile bicycle ride. Others go on a big, long motorcycle ride or, lift weights or meditate. It's black, by the way.
Yeah.
Love motorcycles.
I like it when you say that shyly.
Before I got married, I had 5. Yeah. There's club racing and a lot of fast. Northeast Arkansas, or just North Arkansas, has beautiful hills and mountains and no people.
Really?
Because you can travel really, that you see. Yeah, maybe you can spot all, but you can travel really far, really fast and not see anybody. It's
I would not have.
twisty.
I mean, no, I guess I'm not surprised that you wouldn't see people, but I'm actually surprised that there are beautiful twisty mountains.
Yeah, it's the Ozark Mountains. So it's been
Oh, the Ozarks here all weekend. I suck at geography. The goose.
yeah. So a lot of sport bikes, and we're going to a different topic, but that's the worst. I could come back for another. But it's all we talk about motorcycles or martial arts. Yeah, one of those two.
So I wanted to continue down this path just a little bit more as it relates to everybody's different. The amount of technology you use personally and professionally is going to vary how you use it. But can I at least gain agreement or see if we have agreement that there, in the world of AI where we are now, there is benefit to creating a digital footprint of your prior self, your prior learnings, so that you have it for reference, or are you still against it?
I'm not against anything, really. If it's helpful to you as a person, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you would capture the essence of who you are
Right now in GPT format. Of course, Nick has the answer, of course. Go ahead, Nick.
In writing, humans exist in language, right? So the things we say become action, you create the future by making speech acts, especially if you're in leadership. You can declare something into being. either for yourself or for others. If you're in charge of an organization or you're the founder of one, maybe in politics, that's literally your job. It's just state things into being. That's what it. So when we journal, whether it's by hand or emails, we communicate with each other, or within an organization, we collaborate asynchronously. You create that footprint, a time capsule of how people speak to each other, how they treat each other. And then with these new tools we have, they can bring that to life. You don't have to have been a part of that environment to be able to interact with it as if you were there. That's how I imagine these knowledge agents working. I think that is absolutely incredible. And, people obsess over video games, and I also take to games. And they agonize over losing a save game that they can come back to 10 years later, just sort of feel like when they were still back then exploring some incredible adventure or storytelling, epic. I think these GPTs can do that for business or life, education. Now,
Right. But this takes discipline. And how do it's hard to teach adults.
Yeah.
How do you teach an old dog new tricks, right? That's the same.
I think challenges we have. The first one is how do we create the learning that we've had now being adults? And I'm assuming all those are adults. It's good. It's an assumption. How do we not take away those learning opportunities that we've had from people who finished or graduating college now? And I'm speaking about younger people who have not had the opportunity to develop their own, to become powerful in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
It's the 20-some-year-olds, the teenagers. When we have these tools, now they can perform work that theoretically entry-level positions can in information work, like software developers or customer service jobs. These are the ones you see Ethan Mollick's LinkedIn posts over the last couple of weeks. There are studies now from 2 universities that show that double-digit percentage drop in employment for entry-level software developers because, and the anecdotes you hear in other podcasts that aren't as good as this one, other podcasts, are that we just hire fewer interns or fewer entry-level folks because we can solve basic problems using code generators and, Copilot for Visual Studio, of course, or something else. So how do we not forget that we have to bring people along who have to learn how to make good decisions by making mistakes over and over, being in entry-level jobs, not being great at them for a long time? How do we avoid creating that gap that's coming behind us so when we retire in 40 years from now, we're all very young here, how is everybody behind us, how are they able to fulfill their job? How can they work with co-intelligence at their desk and know when co-intelligence is great or is wrong?
Right.
Because we can't, as we've seen right and wrong for a long time. So that's the big challenge I see in with UNF from their campus today. They're generously hosting us. I get the opportunity to work on the advisory board for the School of Computing there. And that's one task we've given the board this year with the School of Computing is how do we create more experiential learning for students? How do we not dry up on these internships? How do we bring people in who are doing some innovative things and get the spark? How do we find the intrapreneurs that come through there next?
So when you're hiring or you're having your team hire,
Are they less inclined to hire the kid out of college?
The exact opposite. We built entire software development teams especially with UNF, partnering with them out of people we meet at the symposium here, or people who work on nonprofit projects. I think NLP Logics mean the same thing.
We do the same.
I've been an advisor for them myself, and I've asked colleagues to do the same thing, and it's become part of our culture to integrate with the school that way, helped students in community projects. Eventually, some students end up interning with us, and we treat them like a software developer or an analyst or an IT operations analyst, whatever it is. We embed them into work, and we throw them out there. We make ourselves do it. So hopefully, we choose them and they choose us, and the environment we're in, stable company with some entrepreneurial spirit in there. Intrapreneur spirit, I suppose. And that's how we will continue to choose entry-level applicants.
you're not skipping that step.
We're not skipping that step because he'll creates a gap.
I completely agree. And the pendulum can swing too far in the other direction too if you're only bringing in the, your interns and the folks that are right out of college. You do have to make sure that you have the experienced folks on staff, because how else are they going to get the experience and know the mistakes of the past and learn from what we've done wrong?
Well, GPT have heard.
But how are they going to know, hey, do you remember that major screw up Jen had back in 2000?
No one can see that. It's in writing. It's just ask the GPT.
What's your when you're hiring kids out of college? What's your expectation of them using the tools that are available to them to code? I'm assuming you're hiring a lot of coders.
We have over the years. I used to oversee the software development processes, not so more directly or evolve. I've spent the last few. The one benefit of being in the same organization for a while and sort of having the ATD thing is you get to do different things all the time. So lately, the last 5 years or so, maybe a little longer, I've spent in cybersecurity, IT operations, infrastructure, IT audit work. So not software development, shiny things, but doesn't mean you still can't innovate. It's the opposite. Innovating the sort of the boring, mundane things is some of the most fun you can have. Short of innovating something, making something brand new that someone told you, don't do that, and you pull it off. That's the best. But the second best is, so being in all these areas and setting expectations in our organization for digital dexterity across the board, meaning the willingness and the ability to use new technology to add value to the organization, that expectations for everybody, including new hires. We have our own ways of making software or configuring systems, deploying things a certain way. And, we have 650 people in our organization. We insure millions of people. There's a lot of sensitive data there. There's a lot of things that are specific to being in the regulated industry. There's a lot of learning and also playing a space for innovation. We bring people in with things that are well documented as some expectations, including expectations to create some new stuff. Bring some of the fresh meat that comes through, and sort of all the fresh meat. Bring some of their own, seasoning and teach us new stuff. And then at the same time, you can't also not hire experienced people as well. You have to do both. And while I get a lot of personal satisfaction and I add a lot of energy to hiring to this path that I've taken myself, right? I've really lived the American dream for me, literally, has been that. That's really important to me to see over and over again, create those opportunities. At the same time, I count on colleagues who are way better judges of experienced professionals. So it's tease forge. They're powerful in a different way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're about to do the game.
Oh my God, are you in my brain?
Well, I mean, you gave me the game look. I think that's the common look. Now isn't time for the game. But I have a question that I want to ask that maybe you kind of answer. How is your company? Whatever you can share, like how are they using the R&D around AI? How are they deploying AI right now in your company?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about it because I happen to be involved, as you may imagine. So
I had a guess.
there you had a guess. I'd mentioned a word called digital dexterity, and 90% of our organization is remote. That changed during the pandemic, but we had already a strong remote culture. We used video conferencing when nobody else had to. Yeah. We had our Scrum calls and Agile calls at the desks instead of in the room, so it can be equitable across the team members when we didn't have to. We stopped using the phones for calls because it was just lame to listen to some elevator music. And anyway, so we had a culture of doing that for a while.
I love that you were doing scrub calls through teleconference. Is that what was happening?
Back in the day, we got the Dick Gammy headsets. Equitable before most effective because the team members were always still are. So we had prepared, our organization has always been strong with this digital remote first culture. And we put major investments in that over the last 3 to 4 years, becoming an asynchronous culture, writing down what we want to do and how we're doing it, adopting an employee experience that revolves around internal social media, intranets, and collaboration in platforms like Teams, or for others it's Slack and so on. So once you had prepared yourself for that and you committed to this digital dexterity expectation of people, and you literally can measure their success at work on how digitally dexterous are they? Are they trying? And then what do you know? This big thing, Gen AI happens and it explodes and everybody's really interested. And at the same time, everybody is afraid because we deal with GOBA and HIPAA regulations and the Department of Insurance, in Florida, it's called the OIR, the Office of the Insurance Regulators, and everybody makes rules for how careful you have to be with managing your business and protecting the privacy and confidentiality in people's data. So all these things all at once, and being a mid-sized company makes it sometimes difficult to do R&D. But because we had invested plenty of time in making our digital space secure and compliant, all of that, we're able to innovate. So at the end of 23, Microsoft said, look, we got a copy of ChatGPT. It's called Copilot. And then they branded 40, 50 things Copilot. It became very confusing for a while. We decided we're going to cut through that confusion and we want to deliver Gen AI services for everybody in this organization in some responsible way. We set off on this journey, and I think it was February of 24, Microsoft dropped the minimal licensing to our any number of seats or some small amount down from 300, which was a big investment at the time for tech we weren't sure was going to be good, which it is now. So we took that opportunity, we did a pilot, and we proved to ourselves that, yes, we can do this responsibly, we can ensure the privacy and confidentiality of people, and we can give our employees in the back office space, not creating things for customers to talk to customers. We can empower all of us with these tools we talked about, like the GPTs or the co-pilots in Microsoft. Again, unprecedented speed and scale qualitative analysis. 10% sort of our population did this pilot. It was successful, and now everybody has the services, and we focused on innovation internally. So that our innovative story, the citizen developed a thing with proper boundaries. It turns out it can work really well. Without making your own models or doing anything else. If we need something, so if you had the opportunity to empower everybody this way and tell them, by the way, we expect you to do this with a certain way, and we'll measure you on your willingness and ability to do it, then you get a lot of great ideas. And the ones that need to scale beyond what general purpose technology can do, like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, whatever, then you go with someone like NLP Logics for something custom and precise. But if you want speed and 80%, reliability is good enough, which it is for many back office things. Oh, it's out of the box. Everybody needs to be doing this like today.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's really kind of a call to all of our listeners right now. This is intrapreneurship. Automate your back office processes. You can bring it to the table. It doesn't matter what department you're running. I think people are afraid to bring these types of things up, or they think, oh, that's IT's job. They can, we can bring that automation in through IT, that they're going to lead the charge on that. But we're struggling, and we've got organizations that are coming to us, and it's not just the custom, models that they need. We are actually now implementing more off-the-shelf tools because organizations don't know where to start. And I think we're failing to see champions emerge for these sorts of things. And that's what it needs. And you can absolutely be an intrapreneur, bring this into your organization. But I think, Nick, you did skip over one important thing, if I may, because this is Nick's sweet spot. Nick is probably the OKR master. He's master at setting up. I think that's why you guys were successful, because you knew what success should look like. You set goals, measurable goals for yourselves, and you chipped away at it. So I do think some people don't think that sounds innovative or flashy, but you're doing the innovation and you're successful at it because you were goal-oriented and you know how to measure your success and you know how to measure the value that this innovation is bringing to your organization.
Thank you, Jen. We've done a few OKRs on this topic, and I called Ben Lamort a couple of weeks ago. Ben Lamort wrote one of the OKR books, and it was the OKR's field guide. There's WAKI, and then there's the Measure What Matters by John Doerr. Those are the 3 books you got to read on OKRs. And I read all of them because I do believe in OKRs a lot. And it's nice to be able to go through these sort of learning sprints and then try them for something valuable, important. And, I sent some samples to Ben and he says, I mean, these are okay. Like, you should, these are not bad. He should say why and why now was his comment. You should answer some more things. But yeah, we wanted to be very specific about what the objectives is going to be and what the key results were going to be. But that specific doesn't mean that they have to be simple, those OKRs. They become hard to make simple, of course. But if you set an aspirational OKR, it could be as simple as, I'd like everybody in my organization to have generative AI technology. That's a simple OKR. Yeah. By June of this year or something, then you start backtracking and thinking, what would it look like if we did? And to us, that meant 3 things at least, that it can be done responsibly. So specifically as measured by our cybersecurity team and our legal team's opinion of whether this technology can be deployed in a way that can handle confidential information. Doesn't mean we will. It means that we are certainly could safely. Meets our standards and regulatory standards, fine. So that's part of the responsibility. The other one is we wanted to show some sort of return on the investment.
Right.
Because this isn't free in terms of time and, licensing. So it was, you could frame it as a number of novel ways of performing work, because that's the promise. And then the third item for us in the first OKR was to have a strategic plan for where you want to go next. So you want to know what your next move is. And for us at the time, we used the AI opportunity radar by Gartner. He gave you a nice paper on, like a CIO sort of paper on how you can think in 4 quadrants about where you might deploy AI technology: back office, front office, in front of your customers, not in front of your customers. Truly innovative, groundbreaking, or just supporting existing things. And we said, look, we're going to study the problem that way, enable the possibility of some ROI for the company, but we're going to accept that we have these aspirations that might be thrown out. And that's part of what an intrapreneur does. OKRs work really well for that. So we started there and also study, what CISA's guidance might have been on AI at the time, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, folks who make the regulations per state. They issued a bulletin and we talked to industry, talked to you guys at some point, wanted to make sure we have all the good grounding. And that was part of the homework a team of 4 of us did. We had me and coworkers, one in legal, an IT ops person, a business, training manager. We did all the homework because, unlike maybe an entrepreneur who has to prove that there's some possible return to investors or risk to own stuff, we have a responsibility to our customers, partners, and employees, and fiscal responsibility as well. We can't just spend a bunch of money. So it was a golden opportunity. Did that. Actually paid off. And I'll tell you a story about AI here. We got like 127 ideas from those pilots. Everybody was saying what they could do and should do with AI. And then we were like, oh man, got to read 127 ideas. And it's 4 of us. We estimated it'd be like 8 hours of work. And I read maybe through more than half of them. And I estimated 8 hours. And you had to say which of the 4 categories, according to Gartner's paper, do these ideas belong to and how viable they are. And guess what? The 4 of us doing this didn't agree anyways. Like, we had different opinions of what stuff is. So we said, all right, we're going to ask Copilot, but Copilot thinks. So in 3.5 minutes, with the Gartner paper and a 2-page prompt, which took time to make, fair enough.
Wow, 2-page.
2-page prompt. We got the ideas parsed in like 3.5 minutes. At the time, you couldn't paste all the tokens, and you had to split it in different runs. And we said, if the 4 of us can't agree, why don't we take a 5th opinion and just maybe in this case take the 5th opinion, the spot check. They're like, okay, we'll just go there. And I think that's an example of a decision or a direction you can take using services and tools like these that are innovative and save yourself time and create something that can be repeated, like a cycle of innovation.
But it wasn't the fifth opinion. Copilot made the decision.
We made a decision. We were the humans in the loop, but we took what Copilot's opinion on the classification of the ideas with the spot checks. Okay. Because none of us wanted to spend an entire day reading narratives, some great, some just not so good, but yeah, We're like, this doesn't look like a good use of our time. We'll just use co-intelligence. It's great.
It's interesting. Game time?
You know,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, this is called the red tape escape. Oh, God. You should have experience with this. You have been an entrepreneur your entire career. You know what innovation looks like, but you also know how challenging it can be to get all the appropriate buy-in. Or you get thrown very unique scenarios that you have to navigate. It's one of those, you get to have this really amazing reward only if you go through the forest that'll eat you.
Did we talk about the scenario?
Isn't that a kid's book? There's a forest and it has all of these terrible things. Or maybe is this are you Zelda?
Listen, I need to know what you're talking about. We could talk after this phone call, text message, podcast. What is this? Consider everyone, because there is a movie that I'm trying to figure out that I saw that's in the Wizard of Oz category where there is a forest that's menacing.
Yeah.
But can't remember what the movie was, but it has that sort of Wizard of Oz feel and it's old. So if you can figure that out, I need to know what it is, if it's a real thing.
I feel like I hear Ashish yelling at us right now. And it was just the producer. Ashish, our producer. Ashish, do you know the name of this movie?
Alice in the Wonderland?
No.
He's like, this is so obvious.
No, not at all.
Tried.
I grew up on Soviet cartoons from back in the day. There was a chain-smoking wolf who drank vodka. Oh, I knew it was a lot of violence involved.
I love those Stupkin characters. All right, what's your scenario?
We are so good at squirreling today. Okay, so the red tape escape. I will leave the analogy of the forest eating you out of it. So we're going to give you, we have 3 scenarios. How do you, as the entrepreneur and the innovator, not break your spirit? And how do you forge through to the end to make sure that you know what's right for the organization? You know, this thing is right for the organization. It needs to be created. You need to get this buy-in. So how do you make it come to life with all of these different obstacles that are thrown at you?
Can't wait.
So it can be something as simple as you want to implement Microsoft Copilot through your organization. So that is the innovation that you are trying to bring as your company's entrepreneur. First scenario, Arash.
Is it being? Okay. Nick, you want to implement Microsoft Copilot as your innovation. So you bring it to, let's just take it out of your organization. It has nothing to do with the organization. You are at, what's that organization? Acme Corp, Roadrunner with the...
Sure.
Okay, you work at Acme Corp, Limitoots Corporation, and you bring your idea to your manager, whoever it is. And your manager, the feeling you get, rejects the idea. No, it's not necessary. Copilot's not there. It's a waste of our time and money. But the feeling you get from your manager is that he is intimidated by you. You were forward thinking. You are an innovator. And instead of being powerful himself by empowering you, he's kind of squashing your idea. How do you manage that?
You get to second or third reaction before you say anything, first of all, and then you take some reflection time. When I encounter this or anything really, when I prepare for a conversation, always think about what the concerns of the people I communicate with might be. What's one easy way of saying that is what's in it for them, and also understanding that your identity belongs to the observer. So who do they think you are versus who you think you are and what you bring? Like, what is their opinion of you based on what you've done and how you do things and what's in it for them? So that's always an angle that helps you get things through because you're enabling someone else to get something that's valuable to them. So killing the idea might have been because I maybe brought it the wrong way to the person or in a way they didn't want it or didn't expect it. And then at some point, if you encounter, if the success or if that person is the only gatekeeper in the situation, you got to think maybe that's a battle you try again later, or maybe a different opportunity is worth pursuing with that person. So there's a possibility of delay or the possibility of maybe enabling someone else to find that being a good idea speaking to the manager about it in a way that makes the manager see the value for them and maybe for the organization as well.
Do you think
Nice. Great answer, by the way.
A plus. That's me. Okay.
that's so interesting? Because what I heard you say was it's what's in it for them. What's in it?
And I think that's actually the conversation we should really be having with all organizations and people.
I mean, it's more important to show that individual person what's in it for them versus
Here's how it's valuable to our organization.
You can start with them, and then when they're open, then you're able to talk more about the organization.
It has to be the right time. The person has to be in the right mindset. Are they in a state of wonder? Are they curious? Or are they stressed about something else? They have different goals. I think maybe it's futile to speak about innovation when there's pressure on something else. Maybe it's revenue pressures. Maybe it's
Come across time.
delivering a system or a project that's behind. Like, it's the right time for a conversation. It's critical as well. So you gotta have your bearings. You have to understand the context, the situation.
So I wonder if a real distinction being made here between some of this.
Entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial. In my mind, an entrepreneur, and they got to do what I'm about to say as well. If you're intrapreneurial, is you sort of say, I don't really care about the status quo a little bit. I'm going to break it or create my own status quo. And to be an intrapreneurial, correct me if you think I'm wrong, is I've got to know how to maneuver within the status quo. I've got to
Break it.
to break it or whatever. Like I've got to have this political savviness versus entrepreneurial, which is I'm just gonna create this thing. Like I don't care about the right. I'm sure both of that exists on both sides.
I totally understand what you were saying. Yeah, you have to care more about your stakeholders, because if you are standing up your own business, you are your stakeholder. I mean, people who want to give you money are stakeholders as well, and you obviously have to impress them to get their money. But yeah, the political savviness, the emotional intelligence, that definitely all plays in. You have to have that skill set as an entrepreneur.
The power skills. Yeah, that's what those are. You have a responsibility to your organization, to your team, to your ownership structure, whatever it is. You got to be aligned with the corporate vision. That healthy organizations, or whether it's OKRs or scorecards or something else, they're very specific about their objectives and what success looks like, at least at the macro level, at top level, and some strategic plan. So you can, depending on your influence and the amount of risk you want to accept for yourself personally, is, you can challenge the status quo, but you go to business school to learn how to present a business case, and you spend a career learning how people behave in an organization, what the organizational culture is, so that you can add value, be effective within the constraints. Yeah, an entrepreneur can definitely rely on people voting for their idea with their dollars. They're buying something or they're not. And if some people don't like it or don't buy it, fine. I mean, I know there's product market fit. This is the very difficult thing to achieve there. Few are successful, relatively few. Where entrepreneurially, you can fail multiple times by basically abandoning an idea without having to risk a lot in the process. So it's the ability to try again or try differently, and maintain integrity for your organization, and just do it in an ethical way. Yeah. And if the table is wrong for you, then you can always sit at a different table. That's another thing you can do as an entrepreneur. You could change where you work.
Yeah. Okay, another scenario for you. I think we've all experienced this. You want to bring in Microsoft Copilot. You think this is a great idea. You've got your business case. You pitch it to your boss. And this time, he thinks it's a great idea. Totally on board. But you have to work with one of the most challenging coworkers. So this is
And they're knowledgeable. They're not just challenging. They're actually super smart, intelligent, and their knowledge will help you get the talk.
Absolutely. If they are willing to collaborate and partner. This is going to be the person that's notorious for wanting to hoard all of the work themselves because they want all of the credit. And it's hard to get them to come to the table and be forthcoming and co-collaborate on this innovation. How do you navigate that?
Well, sometimes you have to, right? You have to accept imperfect situations, whether you're dealing with investors or business conditions as an entrepreneur, or with people you have to work with or satisfy or leverage to achieve something. So I'd say this, a healthy organization doesn't tolerate a lot of that for a period of time. I could tell you from my experience, I'd always choose over time the person who has good skills, maybe not the best skills, but is a good teammate. There's a term that Nina describes people like that. And I've heard Simon Sinek talk about Navy SEALs and how they have the top performer and the person you can trust, and the person in the middle of that 3x3 matrix is usually better than the person that who's the absolute beast at whatever, the best something. So first of all, I would, in that situation, I would hope that situation doesn't happen often. But if it does, I would accept it maybe once or twice. But then I'd have to change the situation, either if I gotta change people sometimes, or leave the table. So it's inevitable in some cases, and in other cases, but if the cases continue, then maybe it's not for you. Or if you have influence over it, you got to help that person find a different way to add value, or ask them to be also.
How do you manage the difficult employee that you have to work with? You know that this implementation is going to make a world of difference for your employees, for this company. So you want to make this happen. And let's say this is the first time you've ever had to deal with this. So how do you say you want to work with this person? How do you get through to them? Are you appealing to their interests and trying to influence them to be more open and honest and collaborative? How do you not let this tank the project?
What's in it for them? What does that person need to feel like they're successful or satisfied? They want all the credit. Well, maybe this time they get some extra credit. We'll see. It depends on what's in it overall for the organization. That's your primary focus. Yeah. Goes back to trying to understand people's concerns.
So still appeal to the person's.
Yeah. Appeal to the person.
Seems like a good step one.
Make some compromises to not to marry.
Yeah.
Because at some point that becomes, if you let that sort of thing happen over and over, it becomes the culture of an organization. Yeah. And then it becomes a place that where innovations are a little harder to achieve, or evolve into our people who come in to get some high skills experience and then move on to somewhere else. Yeah. But if you want a place where people stay 25 years, and like the organization I've been a part of, it's my responsibility to create a space like that.
Right.
Where people are continuously challenged. They don't become complacent, but we don't allow for toxicity to continue for very long. If it occurs, 2 shots basically that people get with me.
This is, Ashish has become our one. I still don't feel like I could be an entrepreneur. How do I become one? Where can I go learn more? I'm going to throw that question to you. When we come
about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Readings that we might want to
advise folks, who are listening, where can people go?
I would go to those 3 OKR books. If you want to learn how to make important things like simple to digest in terms of like ideas and plans that are, so it's Radical Focus by Christine Waukee is one of them. Measure What Matters by John Doerr. And if you want to get into actually facilitating OKR workshops, the OKR's Field Guide is one. So those are the practical skill sets of how to organize ambitious things, big things. And on AI, there's a lot of reading, but Ethan Mollick's Co-Intelligence book is the one that's very practical. You have the Mustafa Suleiman, The Coming Wave. He's like the very forward-thinking person. He's in charge of Microsoft AI now. He's a very interesting TED Talk speaker and so on. And then The Alignment Problem is another book you should read if you want to stay with AI and bring in entrepreneurial things. in those two domains. The alignment problem is about doing that in a responsible way.
There are a lot of students that are told not to use AI in school. How do they learn to responsibly use this revolutionary technology if they're not allowed to use it? Now, I mean, I'm asking you that question, Nick, personally, but also knowing you are part of CAB here at UNF.
Going back to the conversation about how do we develop the skills in people to know when a hallucination occurs or when to assess the quality of the output of the service or tool. I think it's learn it, do it, teach it. You can't skip the do it and the do it part to be able to teach your core.
We're seeing students to not leverage AI to complete schoolwork.
I think I don't know that that's practical. To me, you have to learn some math skills, for example, without using the calculator. You can't skip some of these steps. But at some point, you're teaching things that aren't useful long-term, or like how to do complicated math equations in a calculator, unless you work in accounting. Right. And I could tell you, in my MBA class, I wiped my financial accounting class out of my brain as soon as but it was just like, we share what it is. I know how difficult these people work to keep things in track, but I'm not at all interested in following up on any of this other than appreciating that people do it, giving them what they need for a specific reason. So I think students need to go through a journey like this of understanding the value and what quality looks like, but yet not be encumbered by not using effective technology. Like school books, textbooks may be an ineffective technology these days. I don't like reading. I can't be ADD thing, but I listen. All right, an audiobook, or I'll have a conversation with a GPT about a subject all day long, and it'd be wonderful. We're going to walk, talk to it, and I'll learn more than forcing myself.
I've been at a grocery store just talking to GPT.
I'm hooked now by those. Did you know there's an app? And that's what I would say for all of the students that might be listening. ChatGPT and Gemini also, they have the apps that you're just having a conversation. So it's all talk to text, but it's your voice recognition. It's talking back to you in a human voice. And to me, I have learned so much more and a whole lot faster. But it's the critical thinking skills of knowing, am I getting a quality response and an accurate response? And to me, this is so critical for people to know if they're getting right or wrong answers. And what better way to learn than if you're in school and you have, to me, you have the safety of failing and learning and being picked back up by your professors.
Do you remember the example of the 4 people reading the idea bank and then we trust in the co-pilots? Yeah, we got we got 5 opinions basically in that example. Yeah. The important thing the students, I would say, is to remember is you're getting more or less an opinion from your GPT. Yeah. One interpretation, and it's difficult to be precise about yes or no answers or incorrect versus absolutely correct answers. You can get many correct answers, but only you can decide what's correct for you, and it's an opinion you're getting.
And I think what's important to call out here, if, for instance, there are certain schools, high schools, and universities that are not allowing the use of AI to complete your homework or help you with tests, still doesn't mean it can't be a study guide. It still doesn't mean that it can't be a partner to you to help you learn, and you're just accessing information and getting opinions from your collaboration tool. So you can't use it to do your homework. You can use it for so many other things. And even in your personal life too, in making some pretty tough adult decisions that have to be made as you're growing up between 18 and 21.
It's a lot of movements. What's going on over there? Yeah, I agree with that. And I have mixed feelings on, I pull up GPT with my kids quite a bit to just sort of like ask questions or look up information. Yeah. And I've been so happy when the couple times when it gets it wrong so that my kids can register. I think we had a question about how to play Sorry. It was a rule for Sorry.
Oh, the game.
Yeah, the game. Sorry. Yeah.
The game.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And I asked it a specific question, and it didn't seem like it was the right answer. And then I said, "Are you sure? Go on the internet and find out." And it came back with the right answer. And then I asked it again, and it came back with the wrong answer. Just to kind of affirm it and have my kids see that it's not this perfect tool.
Right.
is a win for me.
Wouldn't be great.
All right.
So we got 2 scenarios out in the game, and it's still tied back. So going back to the game, still tied back to know your audience, appeal to your audience. We had one more
What was it?
animation cranium.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever experienced you have this grand idea, you know that maybe this topic has been broached before in the organization, but obviously it didn't turn out anywhere because this thing that you have this idea about hasn't been implemented. But you still hitch it to your boss. You have beautiful business case. And the response is, "Oh yeah, we tried that 9 years ago." To which you then say,
You'd want to know why that boss thinks that ops tried before was not successful, or why didn't it last? Why did it not add any value? And you learn about their concerns in this way. And again, going back to understanding what people think about and what's important to them. And then, if the answer is still no afterwards, and you're very strongly convinced you have a good idea, and maybe that idea takes another few years to actually materialize. So at some point, you also have a responsibility to carry certain things that are good ideas and sort of indirectly put moving forward without getting like a concrete yes. For example, if you want to introduce OKRs to an organization and you think they're a great idea, but you understand it's a big investment, take time to implement them at a certain level. Maybe our senior executive team is busy, but they're concerned with just that sort of mindset right now. Maybe introduce them somewhere else in a place that requires them, like an AI pilot. And then maybe you say the words OKR a bunch, and at some point people start connecting OKRs with successful entrepreneurial things, whether it's OKRs or something else. Yeah. There are many ways. You have kids or stuff. So how do you always get what you want out of your kids if you just tell them do this? Do I need to answer? I'll say a couple. Sometimes, because my kids are usually, they're 5 and 7. They're a little easier to manipulate still. Yeah. You might ask him to imagine something, or help them imagine something, and that's your responsibility as a parent to get him to come to some conclusion. And maybe you sprinkle in some nuggets here and there. I think it's the same with business. If you got a great idea and you're convinced and you're not harming anything, it's your responsibility as an innovator and entrepreneur to not give up entirely. If you really think it's best for the organization to maybe attempt something again, and you're not expelling a bunch of resources, you're adding value. Continue. It's great.
so to wrap, I know our time here does need to come to an end. So thank you so much for coming. But first, what is the last bit of advice that you would give to our listeners on how to take what they've heard today and further it? What do you want people to take away? What do you really want people to understand, and how do you hope to inspire them based on what we've talked about today?
It's very good. If you're hungry for innovation, and that's whether you another ADDer like us, so you just can't sit still without trying something new, or you just have the drive, but maybe you aren't as comfortable taking a big risk, like creating a company and doing mortgage in your home to raise a bunch of capital, be responsible to a bunch of people. But if you have that drive for innovation, be just the right amount of humble, meaning not too humble or not too arrogant, just the right amount, and spend time understanding what people around you find valuable. Don't be shy of becoming powerful and making others powerful as well. Just keep driving, keep learning, whether it's about OKRs or AI, and just keep trying, especially if you have ways to do these iterations one after the other and accept some failure, just like an entrepreneur would. But don't be too humble. Make sure there are people who would help you get something through or make a big decision. Give them an opportunity to assess the value you add by getting some R&D in there. And if you can at some point, some time for R&D. Get it on a scorecard so your organization can literally say R&D equals success this year, and it's in someone's goals or it impacts businesses. They're there to earn money or nonprofits to serve a certain purpose. Make sure you eventually connect that to the purpose of the organization. So you aren't just innovating for the sake of innovation, but the value is declared there towards the big company goal. So don't be too humble and find ways to just get new ideas out there. Keep doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, Nick.
My pleasure. Thanks, Nick.
All right. That was inspirational.
Yeah.
What did you take from it?
Exactly what we talked about. So just being an innovator within the organization it's a hard thing. I think it's hard.
I think people are afraid of it, but the way Nick talks about it, there's no need to be afraid. And I think when he's talking about
It's fear or just being overloaded, overwhelmed, because
all the above,
Yeah.
all the above, we don't prioritize it. I think there are leaders who forget to create the space for their employees, for themselves, to be innovative. Yeah. I also feel like you have people who get a little bogged down with, it's impossible to make change happen here. There's too much red tape. There's too much political yuckiness that happens. And so therefore they're intimidated. That's where the fear comes in. It's going to be too hard to create the change.
as what Nick said, this is actually, I'm going to take this, put it into my soul, that don't be too humble.
Oh, no.
I think it's actually sage advice that I really need
Yeah, you need that.
to register.
I have a pen in my bag if I need to just let a little bit of air out. No, in all seriousness, though, I think you do it sometimes as well. There is maybe it's out of, I don't want to step on toes. And I think if you're embracing what you have in that humbleness, but then you're still being confident in knowing this is a good decision, this is the right decision, then you can be bold and just make the ask. You never know what you're going to get until you place the request.